Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Live Boldly with Sara. This podcast episode has two of my favorite people before me sitting in with a part of this episode. Dorit is my former coach, therapist, all things, now best friend. And Krista is a former client. There's a whole story behind this, and another one of my best friends. And so I want you to grab your journals because this is going to be an incredible episode about, well, let's start with this. Dorit, why don't you introduce yourself and how we met? Krista, let's dive into that, into your next step, what we were just talking about, what this episode's going to be about. And don't miss out on this, everyone, because this has already been great. So Dorit, let's have you introduce yourself.
Okay, so I am a trauma therapist and life coach. And actually, I'm a retired trauma therapist. Really, I'm right now just coaching. And I mean, it's still who I am. I'm very much a trauma therapist, life coach. And in reality, you get me. But I met you, Sara, 10 years ago? I know, 10 years ago. And I remember coming into the waiting room and calling you in and just feeling, oh my God, this woman is going to go on to do great things. That was my first thought. I mean, I knew nothing about you. I learned that you were a very, very happy housewife and mom and coach, and your whole identity was wrapped around your family. And by the second session, I remember asking you, have you ever thought about being a coach? Because I never doubted for a second that you were going to go on to do amazing things. And here we are, 10 years later, a book, a TED Talk, coach, all these retreats, motivational speaker. And who knew I was psychic? I sure didn't. But I saw that. I felt that energy. And it's been amazing to be on your journey.
Well, I am so blessed to have you on my journey because, and this is the golden thread, which is also what brought Krista into this journey. I remember when I first met you, I was in my bedroom at my lowest low, needed somebody to talk to, called the rehab facility that my now ex-husband was at, asked for a referral. They handed me you. I called you sitting on my rocking chair. You were in Florida. And
yep, I remember
this
the
is
call.
how much that the moments matter, right? I remember that. And you said to me, look, you said, tell me a little bit about your story, which I did. And then you put words to what I was feeling in a moment in time that struck me so deeply that's what then was like, okay, I need to keep seeing her. I'd never seen a therapist. I'd never had a coach in my life, which then brought me to you and this journey, right? I could have closed the door and said, nope, I'm not going to do this. It's too expensive, too much time. I'm going to focus on my kids. And I knew in that moment that I needed to focus on myself first so that I could also then focus on my children. That said, I do want to share this publicly. You ready for this one, Krista? Because we've all had this happen. We then, years later, we were sitting at your table, your kitchen table. I brought my kids and my niece to your house during COVID. And we were having dinner together. And you told my kids and my niece, and this is something that I didn't even know, that the people at that particular facility told you that you were going to be meeting somebody, that somebody was going to be calling you. And do you remember what they said about me?
I think that was me.
No. Yeah. You told me this. You told me that the people at the facility said, oh, somebody is going to be contacting you. And by the way, what was it that they said about me?
They said that you were going to be a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to be, oh yeah, this was going to be a really tough case. You had incredible denial and you were going to be a really tough case.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, here we go again. another partner who is pathologized. And by that time, I knew the more the partner was pathologized, the stronger, more competent, capable, put together that partner was, because of the need to make the partner look sicker than their client, their inpatient client, who,
Yeah.
by the way, was keeping everything together.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, quote, the crazy one.
Yep.
And that's what you had said. You were like, I was told to put it into perspective. She was the crazy one. And here, you're not the crazy one. You're not the crazy one. And so I thank you. Thank you. Because I have never been happier. And 10 years later, looking back, that one moment in time where I picked up that phone and was like, this is the support I need. So then we come into Krista, who I contacted you when we started doing we were raising funds for the documentary, and I was looking for a couple of speakers, and I was stalking you on Facebook. I said, ooh, I love her energy. I see something in her. I want her to speak at the opening for raising money for this documentary. And that's how we met. I literally reached out to you and said, hey, will you speak? And here we are. So tell us a little bit about you.
I'm Dane's mom. Everybody knows Dane.
Which is what we're going to be coaching on.
Everybody knows Dane. Yeah. So, life is funny because I came from a dysfunctional family like most of us. And then I think having a kid with special needs, Dane's diagnosed with autism and epilepsy, and he had his first seizure at 10 months old and was diagnosed with autism at 5. And what I didn't know at the time was parenting a kid with special needs perpetuates the survival mode and the fight or flight and the trauma brain that I technically grew up in, that I didn't know or identified actually until I read Sara's book, and she I was like, oh shit, that's what this is. And so the deconstructing of that and recognizing when I'm reacting and not responding, when I'm functioning in a more trauma brain fight or flight state, and deciding to stand still. And so we left California, came to Florida. I have the most peaceful life that I never even thought possible. Since coming here, Dane is living on his own. He's in a house with roommates. He has a gallery. He's a professional artist, although he will tell you he's a hobby artist. But we sold paintings for, upwards of $6,000, and it was a viable business until he decided it wasn't. And I created it for him out of despair and absolute survival mode. So now that he's doing well, I don't feel the need to have that business. I don't feel the need to actually do anything for him. He's on his own. He's cooking. He's not cleaning very well, but that might just be a 28-year-old guy thing. And he truly is my greatest accomplishment. And I fought for it, and I fought for, and it's twofold, because I fought for it because I wanted to be free. When everybody asked me, I was like, I am this crazy because I want him out of my house. I want to be free. I don't want my identity to be wrapped up in him, but as long as he's having seizures, to some extent has to be. But I'm also getting older. My husband's getting older, and I want to enjoy him. And so we jumped off this cliff, and came here, and it's been a miracle. It really is a miracle. And everybody's like, you need a podcast. You need to write your book, because I journal, and Sara had, found me because I overshare on my Facebook and I write, and it's my cathartic space. But and it's out there. And so we put it out on a larger space through his social media to pair it with his art, because people wanted access to our autism journey and to us. So I started sharing more publicly, and I agreed to do Sarah's speaking engagement because I have overcome, and I am resilient and strategic, and I am more than a survivor. I have figured out how to find peace and thrive. But, and I really want to write a book. I have this journal that I picked up because I started the Artist Way. And so I've been doing morning pages, and I picked up an old journal that never got filled up, and there it is. It's got a date on it from 10 years ago. I'm going to write my book and publish it this year. That journal is 10 years old, and I still have not put my book together. And I said to Sara the other day, I go, I need to figure out how to be like the good narcissist, because if I was a narcissist, I would have just done it, because I would have been like, haha, look at me. And I'm going to be like TikTok famous. And I'm going to tell you what to buy on Amazon and do all the things that are happening now that make people rich and whatever. And I can contribute. And then I'm like, oh, I think I'll just go for a paddle.
So Krista, can I jump in here?
Yes, please.
Because I noticed as soon as you said there it was 10 years ago, I've got to write this book. I've got it in me. And your whole face tightened. The muscles in your face, if I could have taken a snapshot, and I'm like, whoa, the story I'm making up in my head is writing this book feels tight, heavy. What do you feel in your body when you think about writing the book? Look at, oh my, did you see that, Sara?
Oh yeah, I'm loving this.
Wow.
There's some piece of acknowledgement, but I think so much of who I am and my identity is wrapped up in being a caretaker. You know, I thought the other day, because he is doing well, since we moved, he has not had one seizure. He is almost 4 years, 3.5 years seizure free. So that piece, it's amazing. No, I'm like living a miracle. And so I thought, oh God, I can't ever go back to that. But actually, locking all of that trauma that I endured in the years that he was so sick and having so many seizures and hospitalized, I can't write about that. Like, it is so painful, and it makes me feel like I'm going back there. And even though I'm not, and I think that I probably need to unpack it because I need to let it go. And it's compartmentalized in a little box.
So Krista, things are coming to me. First is your identity as a caretaker. You know, we as a society really diminish taking care of, as if your life is less worthy because you really helped your son to survive, to grow, and to heal. I mean, your son has been seizure free. He's living independently. And isn't that every parent's job, is to teach their child and to provide for their child? Because one day you will not be here to provide for him. So as I say that, what are you feeling in your body?
I have relief that I did an amazing job.
Oh, you did an amazing job.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay. How many parents can say, I did an amazing job raising my normal child, let alone a special needs child?
I don't know. I mean, I know from, and I think that's part of the reason I moved him out, right? Was somebody asked me what the title of my book was going to be. And I sat on the beach one day and I was like, it's a constant question. And I ruminate that. And I decided the title was going to be Forgiving Dane, because I felt like I needed to forgive him for this life that I've been bound to out of obligation, love, obligation.
There's a difference between love and obligation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I could have, I could have put him in the special ed class where he, was going to be flicked on the head and babysat and not educated. I could have hired a home health worker to look after him and, trust that they weren't going to let him die.
So what happened? So why didn't you?
I just felt something inside of me that was like, this is your responsibility. You gave birth to him and he is no one else's responsibility. You step up to the plate and do it. And so I did it with a lot of resentment and a lot of bitterness, because I always felt like my life was chosen for me. I didn't actually choose it. But then at the end of the day, I did choose it, didn't I? When I, right?
Not only
right?
that, but there's a saying, we plan and God laughs. Nobody plans on having a special needs child.
Right.
That wasn't in the plan.
No.
And you did have choice. You could have chosen to put him in a special ed class and hire home health aides, but you chose not to.
No, I chose a very, and I don't know, my glutton for punishment. I chose a very difficult path, because not only did we fight for full inclusion in general education from kindergarten to 5th grade, I then couldn't handle life anymore. My mother got cancer. She was dying and they weren't educating him. And I was tired of fighting, and everybody was looking at me saying, why are you so angry? And I'm like, why do you think I'm so angry? So I actually pulled him out of school and we homeschooled him. And I hired teachers to come in, and I then became an administrator and took like massive control of his education, and that he would read and write and do arithmetic and so much more than that. Time management, cooking lessons, laundry, counting money, life skills, stock market, everything under the sun. So now I have this kid who's like, Dane, in a package. And so I didn't just do it, I did it.
With a vengeance.
Mm-hmm. I did it with a vengeance, and I gave it everything, even when I was crumbling. And now I'm like, why can't I want to take that passion and turn it on myself and use my voice and use our story outside of his art business that I created that was very successful. But I'm like, I want to help other parents feel confident to make the choices that I made. I want to hold space for them. Because
but I'm curious, it doesn't make sense to me. Why would you choose to do that if there's a part of you that feels so resentful for having had to dedicate your life to Dane?
I think because I don't anymore.
You don't what?
Feel the resentment.
Oh.
I don't feel the bitterness anymore. Working through Sarah's book, we could bring it full circle.
This is interesting.
Right? Because that was a whole piece of my deciding that the title of my book was going to be Forgiving Dane, but that at the end of the day, it really wasn't about Dane at all. It was about me, right? It was about.
Oh, that's why it didn't make sense.
Exactly.
It was never about Dane.
No, but I always thought it was, until I started diving into the title of my book, Forgiving Dane, and all of that.
So wait, did Dane purposefully choose to have epilepsy and autism and to tie himself up to you?
No.
You know, what's interesting is you said something a few moments ago, and you said, I chose the more difficult path. And yet I think in knowing you and the work that we've done together, it would have been far more difficult for you to choose a path where you weren't aligned with your values and who you are than it would otherwise, which is
Yeah.
why you chose that path. It would have been more difficult for you to step away from what you know to be true about yourself than to actually choose the path that you did.
Does that make me a control freak?
No,
That doesn't make you a control freak at all.
I'm looking at this incredibly strong, competent, capable advocate, which, by the way, is something that the three of us have in common. Because we grew up in dysfunctional family systems, we became experts at making lemonade out of lemons.
Mm-hmm.
It's who we are. It's what we do. For me, I look at lemons and I see it as an opportunity. Maybe I wasn't allowed to feel resentment, but resentment isn't where I go when I see or experience lemons. To me, there's an excitement about making lemonade. How am I going to make lemonade out of these lemons? Even if I'm in a very, very, very traumatic situation, and raising a special needs child, autopsy with epilepsy, that's not a 1 week, 1 month, 1 year trauma. That's a life sentence.
It is a life sentence. And he's 28. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he's
Yeah.
20.
He's 28, and you didn't get to choose. What you did get to choose was what you were going to do with the lemons. Were you going to throw them out and hire some people? Or were you going to make lemonade?
I made really good lemonade.
You made amazing lemonade. Look at what you made. Yeah. Look at the strength and resilience. So who are you when you have the freedom to choose whatever you want to choose?
I don't know.
Well, how about another perspective? You know, when you grow up in a family system where you don't have choice and you have to be strong and resilient to survive, and then you give birth to a special needs child, and once again, it doesn't feel like you have choice because you knew ultimately, right, that you're a fighter, you're an advocate, and you knew what you had to do. Like it really wasn't much of a choice, just like your childhood wasn't much of a choice. You're either going to survive or not.
Yeah.
You're either going to be raised an independent, self-sufficient child, which is every parent's job, or not. And now, for the first time, life hasn't given you a challenge where you don't have choice. Like this is a real big dilemma. What do I choose?
No, there's no drama. My life is very boring and very peaceful.
That word boring. Do you
I
know?
mean, compared to what it was, I mean, it's never boring, but compared to what I was living with, I mean, I'm like,
Can I step in for a second? And may I? So the relationships, when we've had relationships that have been drama, that have had so much chaos. I learned this from Dorit through my dating experiences. I'm going to go with something on this one. When we are accustomed to that, that's what we know. The relationships that you have across the board, minus the one with your husband, which has calm to it, you've had a lifetime of chaos and drama. And the one thing that you have also been wanting to release is the chaos and the drama, which you now have. Now, what I'm talking about here is this relationship with yourself. Now, I have my relationship with myself is not chaos or drama. I go to the mountains, which is what you do. You go hike, you go to the ocean, and you feel peace and freedom. Now, in that relationships outwardly in dating, in the relationships that I've had with other people, there's been a lot of chaos and drama. And for some reason, that's what I kept getting back into. And I remember Dorit saying to me, look, you need something, and it's called boring. It's going to feel like boring to you, but it's not. Do you remember having this conversation with me, Dorit?
Oh, yeah.
You said,
I was going there, but not yet. Keep going.
Hey, oh, mind if I just jump in?
No, you got this.
You got this. When she said that to me, I resisted it. I was on the other end of the phone, and I remember almost wanting to say, screw you, because
Wouldn't
I
be the
don't
first
want
time.
boring. And it wouldn't be the first time. I was like, I don't want boring. Like, I want excitement, and I want passion, and here's the thing though, what I realized is that I was associating excitement and passion as the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Because it's only in that silence and in that peace that I can experience true passion and excitement. I didn't know how to create space for that. And now I do, and I have. And now for the first time, I'm like, oh, this is this true connection. It's this true connection, not only with myself, but with that partner. That is excitement, that is passion, that is freedom, that is peace, that is that depth of true love.
110%.
So what I'm hearing from you also is, what the hell do I do with this boring? Because
Can I jump in there?
you 100% go for it.
Okay.
Pass the baton.
Pass the baton.
Well, we're tag teaming here.
Mhm.
So Krista, we mistake passion and excitement and novelty for intensity.
Yes.
Trauma survivors, and you are a long-term chronic survivor, and I know something about that because so am I, and so is Sara. We don't know how to be without intensity. Intensity is our normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there isn't that intensity, there's this feeling of boredom, of emptiness, of who am I? What do I do when I am not Dane's mom? When I'm not fighting for justice, advocacy. And so being in this space, it feels really, really uncomfortable.
I think that I have taken a page out of Sara's playbook and started adventuring more, where I'm just paddling, or I'm going hiking, or finding more productive things to do with my time than searching out chaos and helping people. Like, if somebody needs something, I'm kind of have a rule about walking, like I have to walk away. Like, it's time because it has to be time for me. Because if I have learned in the move since Dane has been situated, that if I don't put myself first, no one else is going to. And just started diving into making healthier choices for me and where I want to be going. But there's still that little piece of me that's like, you're not going where you know you want to be going.
So where does that little itty bitty piece of you want to go?
I mean, when I did the speaking engagement, with Sara, and then through Dane's art and whatnot, I really, really enjoy being on the stage. I really enjoy writing. I don't want to be intertwined with people. Coaching is probably not going to be my thing, because I'm kind of rude. But then I also just want to experience pure freedom with my husband and kind of do nothing. Right. There's that piece, because there's something inside of me that says that I want to feel like I've accomplished something, or that because I've never worked. I've never been paid for anything. And
so if somebody paid you, then that would tell you, what would that tell you?
Or worth, or that I contributed. I don't know. It's stupid. It's real. Like in my head, I know that's like really dumb.
Wait. We don't talk that way
I
about
know.
our, yeah.
But it sits there, right? Like and then I turn around and I look and I'm like, I raised a functioning member of society who's an empath, who's wonderful, who's, going to be okay when I'm dead. That can be enough.
So
Enough.
go ahead, Dorit, and then I'm going to step in.
Okay.
Leave me alone.
So
Leave me alone.
quick things that are coming up for me. There's a Jewish saying, when you save one person, you save the world.
Yeah.
Who says you can't have it all? Why can't you enjoy this amazing life that you created? If you want to write, not because you have to, but because you want to. And it doesn't have to be a book about Dane. It could be a book about, it doesn't even have to be a book, right? And has your definition of success, being worthy, does it serve you? So what do you want to do?
Let it go.
Well, you can. That's one thing you can do. Can you redefine it?
You have a workbook for that?
You're a smart lady. Okay, you figured out how to help your son become an independent person. We get to define who we want to be. I get that for most of your life, you didn't get a choice. God had other plans for you, and you had to choose between lemonade and lemons. But over and over again, you chose lemonade. What would choosing lemonade for you look like? Not for Sara, not for me, not for anybody else, but what would lemonade look like for you? What are the things you choose to keep in your life or add to your life? And what are the things you choose to let go of? And what you choose to hold on to or add may not be what Sara or I would, but not our lemonade, it's yours. And I can assure you, you probably wouldn't be choosing the lemonade I made.
That's a really, really good question for all of us, because we are constantly making lemonade for others. And what does it look like to make it for you? Pink lemonade, hibiscus, throw some strawberries in there, some ice, whatever you want, because it doesn't have to be simply made out of lemons either. You can add whatever else you want to it. So this morning, I sent you something, and we were talking about this very much.
Yeah.
A lot of the same thing, where it's about identity and who am I? And when we go through these massive shifts in our life, first of all, you were in that for a very long time. And I think sometimes we think that, okay, I need to know this answer now, when in reality, you were in that for so long, it might take you a couple extra days or moments to find that answer as it unfolds, because what you went through and have gone through and are still going through is so huge.
Yeah.
And so forcing it isn't the way. We know that. We know that. That's why we go paddle. That's why we go for walks. That's why we go into the mountains, because forcing it isn't the way. It will unfold for us. And I wrote this to somebody this morning, and I said, the biggest lesson I have had up until the age of 50, which I am now, is realizing that my voice is the one that defines me, no one else's. And so if you're kind of like pulling this back, right, and looking at it from you went to the Grand Canyon, you get different perspectives all over the place in that canyon. And so giving it a whole different perspective and saying to yourself, wait a second, is this book even about Dane? No, because the lemonade is for you to drink. It's not for him. And so when you're out there paddling, or when you're out there walking at night, or, like I've watched you do, you've been going on these hikes at night.
Mm-hmm.
What's guiding you when you're on that hike? You have a headlamp. Whose headlamp is it?
All mine.
It's all yours.
All me.
Not Dane's. Dane's not with you. It's all your light. That's it. right? And so when you're out there doing the work, that's where your writing is also being created as well.
Yeah.
When you're taking those steps on those hikes and that light's guiding you, it's not Dane's, it's yours. It's your words. It's your voice. And so my question for you is, are you ready and willing to set the words of Dane aside?
Right. Because that's what they've been, right? I've been giving him a voice and writing about him and raising autism awareness and whatnot. And so taking a step back from that, since he's moved out, that it doesn't seem appropriate for me to be writing about his life anymore. And then I need to be writing about my own and my relationship to autism and parenting and whatnot, and myself, which is cool. I've just dived into it a little bit, but and that came out of this second Grand Canyon trip, right? Because I've gone twice, and that was the epiphany I had the second go round. Was, I think the first one was, you know, kind of leaving him in the canyon and all that bitterness and the forgiveness, and forgiving myself for carrying it for so long. And then that second last year was the epiphany that it was always just ever about me.
Well,
And
and what a celebration of that. Because
oh yeah, no, that was amazing.
you also said something earlier, which I can't let it slide. You said, I've never worked. I'm like, what the hell, girl?
I changed it to, I've never been paid for anything.
Hold on though. Paid how?
No.
Paid how? What? Because you didn't get paid out of paper, which is just simply money. Look at how you've gotten paid. I've had this realization with myself over these last 10 years. If there's something that Dorit's always said to me, she goes, it's the demons that drive us. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
so when I started these retreats, I was even thinking like, what was my motivation in this? Because I go back, I reflect on this a lot. And the last 10 years, the work that I've done has also helped heal me, which is why I'm now releasing a lot of the way that I'm doing my work, because my world has changed. I'm no longer the same person. And so as my world has changed and I've changed within my world, my work and what I'm also creating and delivering into this world has changed, because I'm no longer that person.
Yep.
And how I was greatly paid was in this learning, in this growing of who I am.
Love that. Yes.
And so now this is the time of Krista. It's not the time of Dane.
So, Sara, when you and I started this journey, what we had in common was sexual addiction.
Yeah.
And sex addiction defined our life.
Mm-hmm.
And
not that I'm a sex addict or you're a sex addict. I just want to clarify that. Nobody go to my DM.
No, but
my head just went like, woo.
Woo!
Sorry. I'm so okay. Sorry. Let me reframe that. We loved people.
Yes.
We were in relationship with people who were sexually addicted, and we experienced betrayal trauma.
Yes.
So our lives became defined by the injustice of betrayal trauma and as a result of sex addiction. Krista, you too, your life has also been defined by the injustice of autism and epilepsy, right? Dane didn't choose that, and you didn't choose that. And the injustice that both of you were intertwined by the trauma of autism and epilepsy. And you chose to make lemonade. You chose to become a fierce advocate. And while it might have felt like Dane, this was all about Dane, in reality, it was all about the injustice of epilepsy and autism, and how sucky it is for the parents, for the children, for the family, for everyone connected to these disorders that most people really don't understand. And when I hear, it took me a whole podcast here. Sometimes I'm a little slow, but we've been talking all about the trauma. And this is not just PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, where you're now coming out of it. He's independent. You no longer are in the trauma drama, because those two words go hand in hand.
Yeah.
It's not chaos and drama, it's trauma drama. That's a whole different type of trauma. That's PTED, post-traumatic embitterment disorder, the trauma of injustice. What you experienced as resentment, embitterment, was the trauma of injustice. You didn't have choice. Dane didn't have choice. Nobody had choice here. And you were stuck with it. You were all stuck with it. And now that you're no longer stuck with it, who am I if I'm not advocating? And so I have another big question for you. Given the choice, because today you do have choice, what are the things you would hold on to and what are the things you would let go of? Would you hold on to advocacy?
I don't know that I have a choice in that. I feel like it's who I am to the core of me. Like, I don't know.
Okay, Krista, you always have choice.
That's interesting.
You have choice. No one's holding a gun to your head here.
So here's a funny story for you. Maybe not so funny, but like an interesting tidbit, right? So we traveled with my husband's work and we end up in like the most HIV-ridden township in South Africa. And we're there and I'm bored. And so I decided to start an orphan feeding program in that township with the grannies and have my children making bologna sandwiches and buying food and delivering it. And then for the 6 months we were there. And then afterwards I went out and like created community partnerships so that orphan feeding could become sustainable through like Coca-Cola and different companies that were distributing in the area. So even outside of Dane's stuff, I am like, right, I'm just this person that is like, oh, there's a need, let me. But I'm better at it now. I don't know that I would do that today, but I'm like,
okay, Krista, I'm going to stop you again.
I immediately do that. I'm like, I don't know if I could turn it off.
Why would you want to?
I know, seriously, that's amazing.
Why would you want to?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know. You know, I don't know.
Because it sounds like when you turn that off, where you think about that right here is where the rubber meets the road. That right there is your issue. There is a big part of you that is a huge, fierce advocate. And it doesn't matter if it's HIV, autism, epilepsy, it doesn't matter. When you see a need, you have a gift, you can look at a problem, you could see solutions, and then you go ahead and you take care of it, you implement it, and you figure out, what are all the things I need to do? What are the ingredients I need in order to make lemonade? Staying along this metaphor. So here we are. There is this part of you that's an advocate. And by the way, did you not get paid for the work you did with the people with HIV? The orphanage? Like, is money the only way we get paid? How many lives did you impact?
That's another podcast.
Clearly.
But the problem isn't Krista. And the problem isn't that Krista doesn't know what she should do next. The problem is Krista struggles to embrace who she is at her core. You're the one who said, this is who I am at my core. Now, if you told me you were an axe murderer, I might say to you, Krista, you might want to rethink who you are at your core. But you're somebody who makes the world a better place at your core. So do you want to embrace it? Or do you want to let it go?
Figure out how to embrace it.
But so here's the other challenge. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Okay, writing a book isn't the only way to help people. I had to come to that realization. Sara heard forever that I have all these books in me. I had to come to the realization, and I have so much written, Krista, that I just have to give it to an editor and say, here, take all my writing and put it in a book. But I have come up with other ways that I can really advocate and help people and advocate for change. You created an orphanage. What would be the way that you would choose to advocate that would be fun and exciting and would have you waking up in the morning excited to go on your hike, creating all of the ways that you want to advocate? Public speaking, podcasts, writing, I don't know. There is so many different ways to get your message across. As I say that, what are you feeling in your body?
Tension. And then on the other side, it's like, right, the devil in the way. I'm like, I need to embrace it. I need to embrace it. And I need to put some of the monsters in my head to rest. Like,
okay, start with, you don't need, should do anything. Replace that with, what do I want? Not what do I need? Not what should I do? What do I want?
Want, big letters, want.
Before God puts another big obstacle in your way.
Yeah.
Right? Where you don't have choice.
Yep. What do I want to do?
Or not.
Or not do. Right. I like that question.
No one's putting a gun to your head. You get to take all the time you need, and you get to experiment and have fun. What would it look like to experiment and have fun?
Freedom. It would feel like freedom. It would feel like freedom.
You're smiling and laughing.
Like freedom.
Need and should is heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I see it in your face. The tension.
A great reframing. Such a great reframing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel it in you. This lightness, even in that reframe.
The reframe that's huge. Because I always operate from the I need.
Yeah. Because you've had to.
Mm-hmm.
For a very, very long time.
But unwinding that and deconstructing that sounds awesome. Like, let's go.
Can I give you some homework?
Yes, please. I love homework.
Because I know you do.
I want to do
work.
it.
A fun work.
I want to do it.
I'm going to give you a little bit of fun work. This worked for me
when writing it down. When
I was going through all of this.
Okay.
This is what's been working for me when I've been struggling with the same thing lately. Like, I need to get this done. I need to get this done. I have to, I should. We are in the flow when we allow ourselves to create from that place of our own desire, of our own want. So before you go and before you even put that board onto the water, get it to the edge, right? Get it to the shoreline. And then before you drop it in, you ask yourself, what do I want today? It's not what do I need? What do I want while I am out here? And what you'll find, and we did this practice before we went into the canyon. Remember, I would talk to people and I said, what do you all want for the weather? What do you all want to experience? What are you asking? What is this? What is it that you are desiring through this canyon space? Mm-hmm. And that's when the rainbows started to pop up. When, I don't know if remember if it was your retreat or not, but every single thing that people were like, well, this is what I want. But Sara, how am I going to get it? I remember one of the girls saying to me, using this as an example, I want to see a rainbow. and it was clear skies, sunny, no ounce of rain anywhere. And then it was hiking out of the canyon on the Bright Angel Trail that she looked up into the sky and a rainbow appeared around the sun.
Mhm.
She had that beautiful sundog. What you are wanting and desiring is in you. And so before you drop that board on, simply ask, what is it that I want?
Yep.
And you will receive that. It may not be kind of like how she thought, oh, I need the rain in order to see the rainbow. It might not
Right.
come in the way that you think that it, quote, what you would expect, right?
Right.
Not even going to use that word should, that you would expect it to.
Right.
Just simply strip it all the way down to what is it that I'm desiring and wanting at this moment right now. And when you're paddling, stick with that. Or when you're walking and hiking, stick with that.
Great
And
question. Love it.
Stay
I'm
open.
gonna start every day like that. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
stay open to receive it.
Mhm.
It's not about what the human ego thinks it, quote, should, right,
Right.
be seeing, right?
Right.
Because that's when we pivot off, right? So stay in that alignment.
Totally. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Can I also give you a little homework
Okay.
just for
Love
yourself? I want you to go do a little life review
Hmm.
and
What's that?
write a life review, all of your accomplishments
Oh, this is good.
that you reframed, that you actually, like, you made it a negative, the work you did with the people with HIV, the orphanage. It was like, it was a weakness. I was bored, so I did this. As opposed to, oh my God, I saw this potential. There was this need. And I got into action and I created. And here's what I created. So all of your accomplish, which you seem to experience as a weakness. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, will you come back and do this with other people? Because I'm kind of thinking that we should.
Oh, I'd love
There's that
to.
word should. I want to.
I want to as well.
I want to.
I want to. Absolutely, Sarah. I want to. That sounds awesome.
Okay,
I
so
love it.
here's
I
how we're
love
gonna
it.
wrap this up. Krista, I'm going to ask you a question because we did fill one of our spots this morning already, and the Grand Canyon. I'm taking calls this week, and this is actually going to release next week. So give everybody one reason. Okay, let me ask you this. If you had, I asked this of Betsy Aaron last week on my podcast. She has stage 4 stomach cancer. And I asked her this question. I'm going to ask it of you. If you had a platform, a stage to share with the world, when it comes to, I'm going to use this time as these retreats because I want to fill these last 7 spots up. For those people, what is it that you would tell them about the why on what you've learned, how you've grown through these retreats, through this work?
If I had a stage to share what I had learned in my canyon trip,
Yes.
what would I say? Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay. You went like a long way around.
I know
there.
I did. I went around that. I know I did. Because I had so many things happening up here right now.
First, run, don't walk, sign up now. It will change your life. That's really funny because I'm going to say, and I know it sounds really ridiculous, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yep.
But it was a choice that I made, which I really questioned all the way down and out. But
I know that feeling, Krista.
But in that questioning, there was a leaning into that I chose this for me. And in my walk, because I had a different little experience, but I spent a lot of time alone taking care of me on my canyon trip and making it my walk. it really catapulted me into making even bigger changes in my life and stepping into who I am and what I can accomplish, because I just hiked my ass 10 miles out of that greatness, that just magical beauty and greatness, and leaned into seeing that I am capable of so much more than that. And so that was my first trip. Can I share the second experience?
Oh, feel free.
So it'll end up on the cutting room floor, but so so I committed to going the second time with a girlfriend, and I was super excited because it was 2.5 years after, or a year after, my first canyon trip. And I was in such a different space, and I was so excited to like do it again with so much more energy and so much less baggage, and the knowledge that I could do it. Right. And so, and I had a girlfriend that wanted to go along, and I was packed, I was stoked. And in the middle of the night, I was tossing and turning. I got up, I repacked my bag. And then this voice was like, I don't want you to hike down. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't want me to hike down? Like, shut up. I'm going to bed. I have 2 hours to sleep. And the voice kept going, and it was stronger. And it said, no, I want you to stay on the top and walk from end to end and see the vastness of your accomplishments. And I just started sobbing in the dark, and my girlfriend's snoring in the bed next to me. And I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to tell Sara? And then I have to tell my girlfriend that I was going to emotionally support in her hiking journey. And I just wept. And then I got my journal and I started writing, and I'm like, this is where you're meant to be. And then, because I like to argue with the voices in my head, I'm like, no, I'm going anyway. And I'm like, you're not real. I'm making you up. And so all of this wrestling. And so then it was like, no, you're not going. So I texted Sara like 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, are you up? I have to tell you something. So I go and tell her, and she freaks out. Was really mad at me.
I was like, you're what?
And I stood in my truth and just said, you have to, this is what's supposed to happen. I am so excited. And I finally figured out this like story of my book and my life and me in that moment. And so then I had to tell my girlfriend, and then she freaked out. And I said, look, I'll come down on the last day and I'll meet you, and we'll walk out together, or whatever that is. Anyway, so I had the most magical 3 days, 2.5 days, whatever, at the top. You know, the one going one direction's 13 miles. And the other way's like I walked 16 miles. So technically I walked more than y'all, but whatever. And I wrote, and I stopped on the vista points, and I met, like, God handpicked people at every vista point to encounter me. And that is one of the most magical things about the canyon, is that the people that you come across that are placed in that exact moment. And I ended up praying on a ledge with the 3 most beautiful African-American women. And they were singing praises as only they can do. And my heart just was filled with magic and joy. And it was everything that it was supposed to be. And I spent hours upon hours writing what I had accomplished.
Interesting.
In the right, which I have not opened or revisited since I left there.
I think it's time you do.
You probably don't have to do my assignment because you've already done it. You've got it.
And so the canyon experience in your retreats are, if you hang on to it. And I think that's the thing, because I know several people that have gone to the canyon, and it doesn't end when you
exactly
cross the finish line at the canyon.
Catapult. And
you have to use it as the tool to continue moving forward in your life. And you have to, and I recently decided that I needed to seek out moments that gave me that feeling in the canyon. Right.
Yeah.
So like I went on a weird night hike here in Florida because you can't really hike in Florida. So, right. I went on this weird 7-mile walk in the dark through the forest, which scared the crap out of me, but it was awesome. And there was a guide and it was fine. But it was weird. It was kind of creepy, but it gave me, it gave me space to allow the canyon to filter back in.
Yes.
And for me to remember. And that's the thing, is that unless you continue to take yourself out into nature and or a paddle or something where you allow it to seep back into you and you remember what you gained when you were there.
Yes.
Because so many people are like, oh, here's the fix. And then that's it. And then question like why nothing's changed in their lives.
Yeah.
Because you didn't bring it with you and walk with it, right? Because the canyon showed me what I needed to do, but it first showed me who I am.
Yes.
And I need to carry that reflection in my daily life, in my daily practice. And I think that that's the key, and it is worth every penny. And yeah, I think everybody should do it. And I think that, run, don't walk. Buy your ticket. It's like the best carnival ride ever.
And I had the same experience, right? When I went on the waterfall rappelling retreat.
Yes.
Oh, you did that one.
I learned that from me, my learning was that as long as I know, not just remember, but know who I am, I can survive. I can survive. And not only survive, but I can survive in the face of adversity, because there was adversity on this trip.
Yeah.
And
I don't do those anymore.
What's that?
I don't do those anymore.
No.
I stick to the canyon, the San Juans in Alaska.
But if someone had said, here's what's going to happen, here's what Sarah's retreat is going to be, and here's what's going to happen, there's no way in hell I would have ever done that, because it's not who I am. I'm not a risk taker. I like to play it safe. And then being in it, having to be in it, I realized, oh, I would survive. I would not only survive, I would come out of it and I would be much stronger. I found my resilience. It was another form of resilience that I didn't know I had. Strength.
And it was all yours.
Yeah. And Sarah knows I was so angry that I was in that position. And I was angry at my son because he knew that this isn't something I would have chosen, and he pushed me as well. And, then looking back on it, so what was the real learning? And the real learning for me, which I could only see after, was that there's an innate knowing and an innate strength and resilience that's always with me, that I can always tap into, and that I'm strong and resilient.
It's amazing. It's amazing what comes from those hard times that we have walked through. And you are two of the greatest gifts that have been handed me through this journey myself. So thank you. Had I not gone through the darkness, I wouldn't know either one of you, period.
That's right.
And that's another beauty, another gift from it all. Well, okay. So with that, you have homework. Two things. Number one, for those of you listening, if you're interested in the retreat, message me, Sara at sarahschultenkranz.com, or find me in my DMs, and I'd be happy to schedule a call with you, because like I said, we're doing them this week. So I'd love to get this filled up as soon as possible so we can start moving into the fun part of working together. And then also, if you are interested, since Dorit and I want to do more of these, if you're interested in coming on and having your own coaching session like Krista, please message me, Sara at sarahschultencrans.com, or through a DM, and we will see if this is the right fit for you. Any last words from either one of you? Thank you for this extra time, by the way. This was amazing.
Dorit, thank you. And it was so amazing and wonderful to have now put a face to you and get this like full picture.
And it
Who-
was an honor and a privilege. I so love getting to know you and also putting a face to the many stories from Sara. And Sara, as always, oh my God, what a thrill to have been on your journey,
Thank you.
literally. And we continue to be on one another's journey.
Oh, all the time. All the time. All the time.
Right?
Oh, all the time. That's the Ben's. It's yeah. Yeah, so good. So good. Well, thank you to the both of you. And
Bye.
we will
Thank
stay in
you.
touch. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.